Meditation, right? It's one of those things that I think we've all heard about. It gets talked about so much, and we hear so many people speaking about the benefits, but I still think that there's a disconnect between actually understanding why it's something probably everyone, I believe, should do. And to say everyone should do it is a fairly, for me at least, it feels like a significant thing, because I don't generally say that with anything these days. I think it's always like the n equals one of what the person is doing. But for meditation, I believe in it so much as a skill to help you navigate the modern way of living, that I think in some way, if you can develop a practice around this, you're going to improve your experience of life. So that's why I think it's worth talking about today. So for some of you who have seen this, some of you haven't seen this before, there's all these things of the inner world and the outer world. And what meditation really addresses is the core of you and the I am part of your existence. And it's helping you connect more succinctly with that idea of that awareness. And through meditation, I think you can get a real grasp of all the things that get put upon yourself, all the thoughts that enter into your mind that become part of you, all the labels you assign to yourself, and all the roles you play in life. Because a lot of the time, the thoughts that will come to you are in relation to these specific roles we adopt through life. So it really is something that I think helps us connect truly with the essence of who we are. So we're going to cover a few things today. The whys, the why nots, the what it is, the what it isn't, and then a couple of hows. The hows on the two different styles of meditation, which I've tried and used and am a fan of. I think it's worth me saying at this point, like, who the fuck am I to talk about meditation? I'm not really trained in this. I'm just a coach, and as much as I've got coaching education and coaching qualifications, my experience of meditation is just that. It's an experience. And so as I share this with you, it does come from a place of ignorance, but it also comes from a place of experience of having done it for a number of years now, and having specifically done it and failed at it in terms of developing a consistent practice. And so that's why I still feel like I want to talk about it. I feel like there's something I can offer to the conversation to hopefully all of you, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. So let me just grab a drink. So we'll cover the whys and then the why not. And when I say why, it's the why would we want to do this? And then the why not, I'd be like, well, why not do this, right? Why not? Why leave it, right? What's going to happen if you do? What's going to happen if you don't, right? So why do this? Our brains are overwhelmed. We are living in a time when we face so many different stressors that, you know, in days gone past, years and years ago, we would never have experienced. On top of that, the amount of information we receive day to day, if you just look at, you know, for all of us on this call, the generation we are, how that has increased from our childhood to our adult years. Think back to your childhood when you didn't have a computer or didn't have a phone, you didn't have that barrage of information. We're now just, you know, it's pushed into us every day. And so our brains are overwhelmed. And so I think we're living in a time now where our brains and our bodies haven't caught up to adapt to the way in which we live. And so that's why I think meditation is something that's been around for years, is something we can do to kind of right ourselves in terms of the information we take on. Meditation, as I view it now, is really strength training for the mind. And I know all of you on this call know about strength training and exercise, and we'll understand that through strength training, like the more consistent you are, the better results you get, etc., etc. But this is really the same thing for the mind, and it's building a strong, resilient mind. And that's one of the big things I think you can get through meditation. Thirdly, one of the key noticings for me over the time I've done it is the way in which you can start to identify thoughts as existing in a different place from where you actually are. And I've spoken about this at length, and I don't know if this is, I'm sure you guys get this, maybe not a brain stretch, but what I'm getting at here is your thoughts arise in a certain place in your consciousness, and you can over time choose to let those thoughts kind of control you or not control you. And that's really one of the big gifts of meditation. And lastly, this is more in relation to more active kind of forms of meditation, which we'll talk about. I think there's a real power in doing these kinds of exercises, in that you start to kind of reprogram your mind towards a new vision of yourself in the future. And that's more of the active meditation, which we're going to talk about. So that's the whys, the why nots. So if you don't want to do this, that's fine. But I would argue that you will continue to be overwhelmed mentally. The way we live is not going to change. If anything, in our lifetimes, I'd say it's going to get worse. And so it's up to us to develop these skills, these practices, to not only look after our bodies, which we're doing through exercise and nutrition, but to be proactive in how we look after our minds. And so again, yeah, meditation's a big part of that. Again, why not? If you don't choose to do this, your mind will continue to control you. Our mind is very powerful. It is really good at telling us the story we need to hear to act in the moment without consideration, without understanding that the mind is not to be trusted. And so if we choose not to do this, that's what's going to continue to happen. Thirdly, you will be consumed by your thoughts. Again, the N equals one of my experience in life and the kind of brain I have, which I think we all have. I don't know anyone who's really floating around with just a thought that randomly enters here and there, and it's a barrage of just shit flying around in your head. And I think it's always going to be that way. And it's understanding that if we don't choose to do this, you're going to be consumed by those thoughts and not instead be able to create some separation from those thoughts. And lastly, the idea of the life we live is one in which we accumulate experiences, and those experiences can formulate in us this identity of who we are. And the further on we go through life, the more we get tied to that. And so therefore it's really hard to let go of it. But I think through active meditation, positive visualization techniques, et cetera, you can become that new version of you. But if you choose not to, I think you're always going to be tied to that old self. If you guys have got any questions, by the way, just pop them in the chat if there is one. There should be a message screen. I'll answer them at the end. Okay, so here we go. Meditation, what it is. Noticing your thoughts as they arise and the nature of them. Again, this is the one, right? So I'll talk about what it isn't in a minute. But as you meditate, one of the things you will start to notice straight away is the neurotic, just rampant nature of thoughts in your mind. And what you'll also notice is that they kind of arise from this, black hole of your consciousness. And if you can not get attached to them, which is the second point here, you'll also notice that those thoughts will quickly drift off and you'll start thinking about something else. And this is frustrating when you meditate, because you're like, fucking hell, what's coming on? Like, you focus on your breath and all of a sudden you're thinking about what you're having for dinner, and you're focus on your breath, and you're fucking thinking about, I don't know, just other stuff. And it's just a barrage of that. But that noticing in and of itself is really, really powerful, because in that you can understand that the thoughts aren't weighted emotionally. They're just thoughts. They're like things that arise and they're things that disappear. Thirdly, what it is reprogramming your internal narrative. So that's more the active kind of meditation stuff, where you start telling yourself a different story about who you want to become, et cetera, et cetera. And through that, you can start to really dial into the voice inside your head and what it's telling you on every given moment, on any given day. And fourthly, it's allowing yourself space for thoughts to arise. This is something that a few people have shared with me on Instagram. I've asked this in the last few days. It's something that's really powerful for me as well, is that a lot of the thoughts I get around coaching, or more like creative thoughts, come to me when I meditate. And I think that has something to do with the fact you're in a place where you're not You're not obsessing about stuff. You're just breathing and allowing things to come to you. And in that, that's when those kind of like eureka moments tend to happen. What it is not, right? So the common, I think, because meditation is something that's been around thousands for years, when we think of it, there's certain connotations of it. And really, we think of it like this, this thing where you're going to, I don't know, float around, whatever it is, just have enlightenment. And yeah, that is maybe the ultimate aim for people who do this in terms of monks and stuff like that. But that isn't the goal for us. It's just about improving the quality of your mind to have a better experience of your life day to day. What it is not is quietening the mind and having no thoughts. This is the one I hear a lot. It's like, oh, I can't do that. My mind's always busy. It's like, well, fuck yeah, everyone's mind's busy. Like, that's just the way it is. It's not about quietening the mind. It's having an awareness of the mind. And in that, you start to change, because that awareness helps you create some distance from the thoughts in yourself. And it is not the solution to everything, right? It's not a band-aid to a life where you're not aligned in what you're doing. And, it's all other things we can talk about here, but it's not the be all and end all. And it's something that I've noticed has helped me in really stressful times. But still, if the problem is there, the problem will still be there. You can't meditate your way out of whatever the actual problem is in life, but it will help you gain perspective on what matters most to you. Cool. Let me just have another drink. So how? I have, I've started and stopped meditating for probably the last 6 years. In that time, I've gone through every kind of app there is, every different method, etc., etc. And really, the thing is to find something that works for you. And we'll talk through the different kinds of meditation now and how you can start to implement it. And then once we've gone through the talk, I want to have a real kind of open discussion about the limiters you have and work through that, and maybe share a few other things as well I wanted to talk about. But there's so many different apps and ways to do this. I think the key is just to find what works for you. And yeah, consider it like strength training. Consistency is king. Fucking hell, I haven't meditated today. If I meditated, I'd fall asleep. But as much as I can, I try and do it every day, touch wood. And through that practice, I've definitely noticed an accelerated feeling of improvement. Like if you're doing this once a week, twice a week, it's going to be really hard for you to notice the difference. But if you can stick to this, and this is the thing, it's not like a 2-week thing, it's like a 2 to 3 month thing, you will start to notice it. And it's a significant shift, which I'll talk about. So what is the best time of day? Best time of day for meditation is generally in the morning after you've woken up. All right. There's a lot on this to say that when you're, just after waking, I don't know if you guys know much about brain waves and the way your brain kind of fluctuates and the frequencies throughout the day. But when you're in like a sleeping state, it's a different frequency. And so when you are just after waking up in the morning, that's supposed to be one of the best times to meditate in terms of getting into a meditative state. What you've got to be careful of if you do that is if you do it in bed, is you're liable to just go back to sleep. So if you can do it in the morning, I would encourage you to get up, have a glass of water, go and sit down in a chair, upright back ideally, and then give it a go. The second best time of day to do it is whenever the fuck you can do it, right? There's always this thing of whatever we talk about in these habits or behaviors of what's optimal and what's practical. I do not want you to think, well, I can't do it in the morning, there's no point in me doing it. There's still massive benefits to doing it. Ideally, I think that if you can get it done in the morning, great. But if you've got a busy household with kiddos going crazy, yeah, that's not going to happen. Best duration. Okay, so the best duration is the one you can stick to consistently. However, the caveat on this, I would say, is if you can commit to longer, you'll accelerate the gains faster. Again, think of it like training, right? If you could do 10 minutes of strength training 3 times a week, what's the adaptation you're going to look to get? well, it's going to take you a fucking while, right? If you commit to strength training 4 times a week for 20 minutes time, that's going to give you a lot more results. And so meditation is honestly one of those things. So, you know, there are times where I'd say, you know, yeah, just do 5 minutes or whatever it is. But definitely the longer, the better. For me now, like I'm about 30 minutes a day. And some longer meditations as well, which I'll talk about. But that works for me. But that's the luxury of the life that I live right now. Yeah, but it is what it is. Whatever you can do consistently is the best way to go. The longer meditations, which again I can talk about in a minute, are hard to start with, but they also are quite powerful. They're almost like quite they're similar to kind of psychedelic experiences for me, because you at some point go into like kind of a weird dream state with them. So I'd encourage you, if you ever want to try the longer one, to give it a go. In terms of positioning and seating, just the logistical thing with meditation is ideally, unless you're doing it pre-bed, you want to be in a seated position upright, simply because you don't want to fall asleep. Okay, if you're doing like a pre-sleep meditation, fine, go for it. But for other ones, you want to be in a seat upright with both feet planted on the ground, neck in a neutral position. Sorry, someone drink. All right, so we're going to talk through 2 different types of meditation, and then we're going to kind of go through a few couple bits, and then we can have a little chat about all this. So passive meditation is probably the meditation most people are aware of out there, and that is this kind of like awareness of self and just focusing on the breath. If you've used an app like Headspace, or I think Calm or something like that, that will be the primary mechanism for the meditation, in that they will walk you through a number of steps where you breathe deeply, close your eyes, start noticing noises around you, then start to notice the feeling of your body. And then at a certain point, they'll tell you to notice the cadence of your breath without controlling it, to focus on the in-breath and in the out-breath. And this is really good because it's giving your mind something to focus on. And when you do this, the thing that starts to happen, and the beautiful thing in passive meditation, is you notice the way the thoughts just come up in your brain. You're like thinking on this in-breath and the out-breath. Oh, fuck, where did that come from? And then you find yourself going down a rabbit hole in that thought for a minute, and then all of a sudden you'll have a pattern interrupt and you'll go back to the breath. And that's absolutely fine. That is passive meditation. And when that happens, when those thoughts arise, that is what happens. And it's the art of beginning again, which is the beautiful thing of passive meditation. So I think sometimes people can get lost on the concept of doing this right, because they feel like their brain is always busy. And it's like, well, that's the point in the practice. It's to kind of understand that and build an awareness around that, and then just begin again and to continue to begin again. And that is the practice. There are reasons I think some people may struggle with this. You know, I think like neurodiverse people struggle with this, ADHD, kind of stuff like that. If you've got a brain that is like just unable to focus in any way, this is super tough. The focus isn't strong enough. What was that? Let me ask that. Raise the hand. Cool. Dave, do you want to go now, man? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, that was a message coming through. Me getting rid of it.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
That's right. All right, cool. Let me go back. So focus on the breath. Right. Yeah, if you neurodiverse, and also I think if you're in a real stressed place, you've got like a lot of life shit going on, I think this is a tough cookie. I'd almost promote like more active meditation for that point, because you're giving the brain something to think about. Like if you're in a state of overwhelm, all these things going on, I reflect upon my own journey, like fucking passive meditation wouldn't have worked. I'm just sitting there going like, oh shit, and just thinking about all that. So that's why active meditation is maybe a bit more of a useful tool for you in that state. So what is active meditation? So active meditation can be thought of as many things. It could be thought of like manifestation practices, mantras, positive visualizations. Basically, it's a more purposeful meditation where you actively fill your mind towards something positive. It's towards a place of becoming. It's not just about getting away from where you are. And that's one of the key things with it. So again, if you struggle with the passive kind of thing, reciting a simple mantra to yourself, like, I am a great father, or whatever it is, could be a really great way to you to get into active meditation. Because all you would do then, quite simply, is do your breaths, close your eyes, listen to the sounds, feel your body, and then start reciting that mantra to yourself over and over and over and over and over again. Just keep reciting it. And yeah, it sounds really super weird, but it's really helpful for a lot of people. Or the other kind of active meditations, which I'm a big fan of, are like by a guy called Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's a bit, I don't know, he's a bit chalk of cheese. But it's really about reprogramming your mind towards this positive vision of the future. And you can do that through just anchoring into like the feelings and emotions that you want to be experiencing at a certain point. And then you'll spend your time meditating, thinking about how it will feel to experience those feelings and emotions, which is quite nice. And yeah, it's always biased in the positive towards love. So getting started. The two main apps I've used for more passive meditation are Headspace and Calm. They're both really good. Headspace, I would say, is the best one. That has a load of stuff on there now. Like, I think they've overdone it. There's too much shit now. They've got like walking meditations and I don't know, loads of other shit. But Headspace is like the OG for meditating apps. A more active app is something called Waking Up. That's by a guy called Sam Harris. Yeah, that's a bit out there. That's a bit out there. And the transformational meditations are by a guy called Joe Dispenza. I am just getting a Spotify playlist together. I have that done tomorrow, and I'll put some of his ones on the Spotify playlist, and you can try them. Or this is what I've said to a few people, because I've done a couple of these now. I can do one for you. All right. The downside of that is you've got to listen to my voice in your head, but I will try and do it at a tone that feels more like, someone trying to get you into a meditative state. But I know for a lot of us, the issue can be is that if it's not for you, it doesn't feel like it's for you. And so we can drift off from that. So I've created a Google form, which I'll send out on the WhatsApp group and Coach RX. And so if you want me to do you a meditation, I will do you one. All right. Take from it what you will. It is just based on my experience and the different kinds of meditation I've done. But for the people I've done it for, they said they've found it useful. So that's the other option. Okay, lastly, this is one of those things, right? You're going to hear this and then you're going to go on with your normal life and then you're going to struggle to see the tangible benefit for doing this straight away. And so your brain is going to kind of tell you this isn't important, but it is really important, because we live in a time now where physical exercise has become like a non-negotiable. We can't argue that we need exercise physically to get our bodies in a good shape. Even if it's, to live a long, healthy life, exercise is fundamental to that ideal, right? This mental exercise, meditation, is as important. And it's just reprogramming your mind in such a way as to commit to it without getting attached to the idea of feeling something straight away, and just know that at a certain point, something will happen and there'll be a moment in your day and in your life when you realize that something that would have consumed you before is just a thought, and it's a thought that arises and it's a thought that goes, and it won't be when you meditate, it'll be outside of that. And that's really the carryover for me, having lived a life consumed by thoughts and emotions, is that through meditation, I think I'm largely you know, I can still fucking get dragged down a hole, don't get me wrong, but there are moments now where those thoughts will arise and I notice them, and then those thoughts go, and especially in relation to these negative and consuming thoughts. So I'd really encourage you to give this a go, to commit to it, and to reap the reward of doing it. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Cool. Thanks, guys. There's so much more I could have covered, and I wanted to just open the floor for questions around your own experiences of it, and specifically what you found, your resistance to doing it, and how we can work through that. Go for it.
You know those WhatsApp things you sent? Was that Joe guy?
Yeah, Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, I couldn't get on with those. It was too wooey, too like out there for me. You know, his monotone voice, and it's like,
yeah. It's man, it
was like too new age sort of weird stuff for me. I mean, I've been using the Mindspace app.
Okay.
Sorry, Headspace.
Headspace. So I thought there's another one. There's another fucking number right now.
No, the Headspace app I found personally, I've used it mostly as a sleeping aid. I haven't used it during the day. There was a couple of times when everyone left the home and I did it in the morning, ended up going back to sleep, and I slept for another 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
It definitely rested me then.
Yeah. Well, maybe then there's the opportunity here for me to do you a more active meditation that is me doing it and not some wooey bloke who you don't know.
And it's that weird music in the background. It's like,
that's what we got, man. We got some. But no, the Google form I'll send out. One of the questions on there is what kind of sounds would you like in the background? So, like, some people would like maybe the water, or some people like nature, or some people like those ambient sounds. Whatever you want. I've got a few different tracks, so I can do that. But that might be good, because knowing specifically, Rich, about bringing it into. I know we're working towards a defined vision of a future for you. And there's various parts of that I think would be positive for you to sit with day to day. In that, like, you can take that forward into the rest of your day, and I think it will help you. It will help you make decisions around what you're doing now, and so that aligns with where you're going in the future. That's why I'm a big fan of the active kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's something I haven't tried. Is that mantra thing? Yeah, at the moment I like the passive. But then I'm using it more for sleep. But then I can see what you're saying about the sort of mantra, which is something I think might be worth giving me a go. Like you say, to focus the mind on that goal and to start, I think we mentioned it before, like reprogramming the brain to go and aim towards that and not be bogged down with everything else. Yeah,
because I believe that the words we tell ourselves, in the words we hear, the words our brain says are what we are and what we become. And if we can start to intentionally change that narrative, it will subconsciously sink in, and over time change. It's not overnight. You've got to a certain point in life and told yourself this story about who you are for so many years. So to change that, you're not going to it's even the idea of like self-love. People talk about that, and I'm like, yeah, if you've lived a life where you've looked at yourself like shit, spoke to yourself like shit, had shit views of your body image, of your like capacity to succeed, that isn't going to change overnight. But if we can start intentionally having that conversation internally, it will just move the needle. And even a 1% improvement in the way in which you talk to yourself will have a massive improvement in your life, I think. Cool. Right. Anyone else? Let's go. Yeah. And what are your experiences with this? Have you dabbled with it? Or?
Did you say me?
Yeah.
So I done the ones that you sent to the WhatsApp group. I think was there like a morning version and there was a nighttime version one. And I done the nighttime one, and I thought it was really good.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I actually, it was at first like 10 minutes in, I was like, what is this guy doing? But like I think I got to like the 20-minute mark, and I was like, oh, I feel like a bit wooey, like a bit.
Yeah. Okay. We can all be wooey here. That's the route I'm going down.
It was good. I liked it.
Yeah. Joe Dispenza, he's got a couple of really good books. The one that those meditations from a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and it's just basically rewiring your brain. And he goes, I sound fucking woo if I talk about this, but he goes into this idea of like the quantum realm and quantum mechanics and all these kind of like different ideas. Could be pseudoscience or it could be true, but he's basically says is that there are an infinite number of potentials available to you at any one point, and it's just about tuning your brain into this positive version of the future. And I hear these words coming out, and I'm like, you're gonna think I've lost it now, but yeah.
That sounds like a Marvel film.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I can't even begin to let you guys into the stuff I'm reading at the moment. It's just nuts. It's like this idea that we're all living in like a virtual reality, basically. It's this book I'm reading. It's crazy. But yeah, meditation. Dave, you've had some experiences of meditation for quite a few years, haven't you?
Yeah, my wife always says that her husband changed about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And we've been married 10 years in August. So the guy she married would have laughed at anyone that meditated for sure. And kind of like, what are you talking about? What's this spiritual thing? What's all this, you know? But I'd say it was, most people obviously call it a breakdown. I'd say it was kind of a breakthrough. I got to a point in my life probably where my ego was quite big. You know, CrossFit was going well. I was training well. I was working really hard. I was married. I had my first child, but things didn't really feel right. And I didn't really know what to do. So I found myself seeing a therapist who said, read Power of Now. So I don't read. I'm dyslexic. I hate reading. It takes forever for anything to digest into my head. So I'm a massive fan of Audible. And I listen to that book every year now for the last 5 years at Christmas. And that helps me kind of reflect on the year and set myself up for the year ahead. And every time I listen to it, I laugh at different points and kind of learn something new, even though I've listened to it 5 times. And then at the same time, I found Headspace. And I kind of thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I was walking the dog and stuff and had lots of time. So I'd sit on flights and things and be weird and just deep breathe while sitting on a flight. And what I really liked about Headspace was they did obviously lots of little courses. So ironically, there was ones for anxiety. There's ones for, I guess, relationships or for anger or for all different things. So I kind of always just picked a course that seemed like the most relevant emotion or feeling at the time. And then I developed into the kind of beginner courses, and now I'm on pro level 3 or something at the moment. But like yourselves, I tend to, every night I will put on one of the night ones. I probably know them all off by heart. And I just pick one which is more relevant to whether I've got back pain or stuff's going on and my head's really busy, or maybe actually I feel really good and I'm just going to pick a good night one or something like that. And it just helps me switch off, which, as Glenn knows, being an overthinker, a night owl, and having insomnia for probably most of my life, now I can sleep for about 7 hours. And so it's been really kind of recovering wise, it's been really good. I definitely, like you said about quietness, if I meditate, my mind is so much quieter. And it's not that it's quiet from noise, because the birds could be chirping and the kids could be screaming, but it's the thinking noise. It's just a different brainwave. It's like a calmness, you know, like the usual thing is like a storm in the ocean or something. You know, you're thinking of what tenders you're dealing with at work and the kids are screaming at you and you're being told you haven't done something, versus, you know, a nice still lake. and you might be sitting in the Lake District or something, and your mind's just like, whew, this is better. Now I can actually think about what I might want to think about. So yeah, I mean, with the two things I tell anyone that wants to listen that I think might be ready for it are the power of now, because that was huge to me. And I think it is to anybody that when they're ready to listen to it, and also Headspace. And like yourself, I guess I stopped it probably 2 or 3 times because I was using it as coping, and then I felt all right, so I stopped. Whereas now it's a daily practice in that I do it before bed, and it's an almost daily practice for the 10 minutes that I give it. And I quite like the walking in nature ones. They're quite good if you're out with a dog and you get half an hour because you've got to fit something in. They're quite good ones to reset to. And they also do that thing now where it's like the morning series or the daily series. So it might give you a little video or just an audio of something to think about. And that got me laughing walking through the park on Tuesday when it was talking about the song Ooh Ooh Child. And I had loads of stuff going on work. So I put the song on and it made me laugh. And then when I was sitting in a meeting later on and lots of chaos was going on, all I could hear was the song, and I'm sitting there laughing and people are like, are you all right?
Dave lost it. It's finally gone.
I told one of the main bosses.
Singing it, that would have been it.
I was in my head.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because I sent the lyrics to the boss at work, and then the next day it kind of all got resolved. And he was like, it must have been you singing.
Yeah, that's it. Power of a calm mind, hey?
I just think, like, what friends have told me, is just more balanced.
Yeah, I can see that. In the time I've known you, it's definitely, there's been a shift.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that with us, Dave. That's powerful.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Because I think it's all well and good me saying this, but I had to have someone else say it as well. So yeah, Gavin, what about you? Have you ever had much experience with it? Have you tried it? What have you?
Failed it more than tried it. I think it's probably the reality. I don't think there's, for me, there's, and even more so after Dave spoke so passionately about it there. Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate that. There's no question about the why and the what. It's just that hurdle of the how, and then particularly making the right time for it. I'm struggling to get over that hurdle of when is that right time, when is the best time for me.
If I may, I found more recently, probably the last 3 months, is being kinder to myself when I've not done it. It helped me do it more.
Right.
So I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves that we have to fit in training, we have to fit in meditating, we have to fit in flossing, we have to fit in stretching, all these things that stack up. And then to what Glenn was teaching me really was being more intentional. I'm a procrastinator, so
Yeah, it's a tough one. We're all got busy lives, isn't it? And so to always add something else in, especially something where you're not going to feel a tangible benefit, for 3 to 6 months, is a hard thing to wire yourself to commit to. It is. Yeah. It is. But it is, I think if you can pull it back to like the minimum effective dose you can get in day to day, and some days the wheels are going to fall off. That's absolutely fine. It's giving yourself permission to fail and then begin again. And that is what you learn through meditation. And if you can get your head around that, then there's no failing at it. It's just, fuck it, I missed a day, I'll begin again. And that's the trick with it. Yeah. Well, I know we'll have a chat tomorrow, Gavin, quickly about whatever, but maybe the part of it should be how we can start to implement this.
Yeah.
It's a big one. So Gavin, have you kind of tried it, had attempts at it? What makes you stop, or is it just never really been able to make it stick for a period?
Yeah, I think actually what I tried to do, and I think that would be the panacea for me, was to try to do it at some point in the middle of my working day, which is obviously a very challenging time to do it. I just I feel that's where I can get best bang for my buck from it. Is if I could manage to do it at some point during my working day, just to really detach myself from work for 5-10 minutes. The power that could bring to not just my mind, but the effectiveness of work. But I just, again, the world ran over me as I allow it to do, and just it's probably a little over ambitious, but it's just finding that time slot. I don't struggle to fall asleep. I'm lucky in that respect. I don't particularly need help to fall asleep. Where I struggle is if a busy mind wakes me up, and then so I do find that sort of the breathing exercise element of it helps me get calm and helps me typically get back to sleep in more occasions than not. But yeah, it's just finding the optimum slot. The optimum slot for doing the workouts is the morning at the moment for me.
Yeah.
If I don't do it in the morning, then I'm very unlikely to get it done. That's what I'm realizing at this stage of my life. 5 years, well, before I met you, it's all your fault. If someone had said to me working out in the morning is the way for you, I would have told them they were stupid. But actually, that's what I find. So adding that into that's just going to kill the working out, and so it's just trying to find the right space.
Yeah, and it's understanding your priority at any one time and the time you have available, and it's maybe you go, well, you can't make this work on this period. That's fine, but I think the thing with work, doing it mid-work, is that you're already in that mode. And I think with meditation, it works best when you're going at the start, at the end of the day, and when you're going between modes, right? So if you're going between work to rest or rest to work, I think it's a good kind of like separator. But I think when you're in the mid of work mode, I think it's a fucking hard one, because my brain's already there. I've tried to do it before. I think what is useful though is something like box breathing, which is like you just follow a video of like breathing for 5 minutes. That can give you maybe what you want from the work meditation thing, but then it isn't meditation. But then it's just restoring your breathing, getting your breathing more relaxed and calm, and that might be the thing to do for lunch.
I was going to say, is there a point every day where you stop? Do you regularly stop at a certain time for a cup of tea or for lunch?
Yeah. That's trying to find that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nadia, what were you saying? Sorry,
I said I've been using Calm. I use Calm, and I found they've got the work. They've got it's like short 60-second. And that has helped me this week, because it's been a really stressful week at work. So a few times throughout the day, I've just stopped and put that on, and it's the breathing and just focusing on something else, even though it's a minute, but it gets you back on track.
That sounds good, actually.
Because there is I don't know if you guys saw I did a podcast with the girl who does breathwork coaching a while ago. I'll drop in the WhatsApp group the video she did for us, which is like a 30-minute video on breathwork exercises. But one of the breathing exercises she does is a single breath. You just do a single, slow, deliberate breath. And this is more in the breathwork stuff, but it's also meditative because it's calming. So that might be something as well to consider. Yeah, just like that single, focused, intentional breath, of like slow, deep inhale, pause, slow, long exhale, really powerful day to day. But yeah, meditation. Yeah, and that's the thing, Gavin. I know for many people it's a real hard thing when we've already got so much going on to try and find this other thing to do. But I think if we could do that, even if it was 10 minutes 3 times a week, it would be a benefit. Definitely.
I must admit, when I first started meditating, I thought it was a bit, what the hell is this? How long have I been doing it for? A month or two? Something like that. But I do it mostly at night because it's trying to switch my brain off. I think I'd be you, David, my mind is just constantly going. Well, as Nadia's like hits the pillow, she falls asleep, and I'm like, seriously.
That's my wife. Yeah.
Damn you.
So like I stick it on, and literally like within a few minutes, she's gone fast asleep. And then I'm like there trying to do the breathing and all that stuff. But now I've found that because I've been doing it for a while, I've started doing it a bit more during the day. So especially at work, you know, the environment at the airport, and I've got radios going, and you know, it goes on, it goes 0 to 1,000 miles an hour quickly. So I've got a few minutes, and then sometimes I find myself sort of in a quiet place, and then I do a bit of breathing. So that breathing just helps to reinforce and calm me down a bit, because I think I get highly stressed, my blood pressure raises and everything like that. But the breathing helps the body to sort of calm down a bit, and then it sort of calms the mind down a bit.
Yeah. Because this is the thing, right? I think, you know, if you think of what meditation is, and the connotations, the images I have of it are very, I don't know, like what you said, like if someone said to me like 6 years ago, you're talking about meditation in 6 years, like, fuck off. We're just doing doing CrossFit and power cleans and fucking going hard in the gym. But it is what it is. I'm there. I'm embracing it, because I think it's just something that we can now use to adjust and get us back to a place of like baseline based on how we live. Like, you know, this wasn't needed in our great grandparents' era. They didn't need to meditate every day. I think it's just something that I think is almost like necessary now to get us back to a place where we can kind of operate in a more calm way.
It's a conscious way, right?
Yeah.
So I find I use it now because the way it was explained to me is our brain is just like our heart, right? It's a tool for our body. It's not us. So we're our consciousness, and our brain is actually 99% junk. But we can pick through meditation what we want to actually do with what we're thinking. So it's great for ideas. So we do workshops at work. Sometimes they'll be a day or 3 hours or something. I'll actually meditate beforehand, kind of like get my brain ready to be creative. It takes a lot longer to switch it off, 100%. But I found like it can be really productive, because you'll sit in a meeting, you don't really say anything, you're just sitting there quietly processing it in the way that you want to, rather than from a place of kind of trigger and ego and emotion. And it just allows you that moment where suddenly maybe something will come up and you just do that long controlled breath, and then kind of go, okay, that's helpful, but not what I need right now, sort of thing. And then at the end of the day, usually with a dog walk, it will take maybe 35 minutes. So I'll do the 10-minute walking one and then carry on walking. And then eventually the mind, it's almost like a switch. It's the weirdest feeling.
This is the thing, right, as well, like you still do this sometimes. I still do a meditation. I'm like, oh, that's fucking 30 minutes just wasted. And it's you get moments with it where you do feel like it's super frustrating, but then there are those shifts that happen, and you'll go into this place and that awareness will be there. And I think that's when it becomes really beautiful. And for me, I guess the biggest reason I'd want to try and sell this to anyone is that it is the pattern interrupt between the story you tell yourself about who you are, about the world around you, and then just the nature of the thoughts that rise in your head and how you can choose to act upon them or not. And so if you think of this like, you know, the experience of life is to have a better, more enjoyable time of it. If you can improve the way in which you talk to yourself and the way in which you choose to respond to the thoughts that arise in your head, like that's going to fucking improve things for you, right? Regardless of anything actually going on outside of you. Nothing outside of you needs to change. But if you can change the narrative and you can change the ability to get attached to these thoughts that come and go, which aren't us, then there's a big benefit.
Yeah, a lot of us is guarded by armor, right? So the inner child that is actually us is sitting way, way deep. And it's kind of peeling back those layers and allowing, like I see it in my kids now, and I'm like, down playing with them, I think they think, hey, this guy's crazy. He's my dad. But that's when you're at your happiest, right? Because you're just being yourself.
Yeah, and it's getting back to that, and that's I guess that's definitely one of the big things from it. Cool. Any other kind of thoughts on it? Like I say, I'll pop a link if you want me to do a meditation. Right, I don't care if you don't even try it. Like, I'll just do it for you, because then at least it's something we can say we've tried. Just give me probably about a week to turn around on doing it if there's a few for me to do. So I've got to get in the zone. I've got to get in the meditation voice zone.
I don't think I can do it, Glenn. I'm sorry. I love you, bro, but I don't know.
You want my voice in your head. You want my voice in your head. That's what a lot of people say long term anyway. That's what they end up with. They're like, I hear your voice telling me not to do that anyway. So
oh yeah.
Or do it. Yeah.
I think your voice would come with too many triggers for me, Glenn.
Yeah, Dave, that's something else, mate. That's we've got history. Yeah. I can imagine that association.
I just wanted also to say that I do still struggle with meditation, especially at weekends. I find it easier during the working week because I work in my garage, which I'm quite fortunate. I basically created as a well-being room. So it's an office, a gym, and it's got a TV and sofa in it. And so it's basically a man cave.
Yeah, that's what it is, Dave. Just call it a man cave, mate.
But I'm not really in it.
This place.
I'm jealous.
It's awesome, man. Like anyone that goes in there, like, oh, it feels really calm in here.
Yeah. I love transcended the man cave, though.
That was the point. But when I did it, when I designed it, that was my thinking. It was just somewhere to meditate, somewhere to kind of like chill out.
I get it, man. I totally get it. Like, fuck. I really relate to that. You know I do. What do you think I'm here? Can build a man cave, so I just fucking left.
You are a man cave now.
Right. Okay.
I need one with 3 women in the house.
All right. I'll pop the recording up of this. I'll put the link through to that. If you guys want to read anything on like Joe Dispenza, all this stuff I'm talking about, if it piques your interest, let me know. It's probably not for everyone, but it is it's a rabbit hole that once you start going down, you start to look at things a bit differently as well. So that's maybe a call for another time. I've had a bit more sleep. But yeah,
you still got that smell in your nostrils.
I have, yeah. Like I was saying, it was
got a bit of carrot still.
Like, I was sitting there last night, so she did it at 1:30 everywhere. She like covered all in her hair, so I like cleaned her up, sat her on some pillows, changed the sheets, we're having a chat. She's all good. Got her to sleep, washed the sheets, and I just smell it, and I just kept feeling sick, and I had to eat something. It was the only way. So I was sitting in bed at 3:30, eating a peanut butter and jam sandwich, quality nutrition, watching Apple TV, because then I couldn't go back to sleep. So I'm like, oh fucking hell! I'm like, what's gonna happen now? And then I went back to sleep about 3:30, and then she woke up again at 4:30.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
The worst one, spaghetti carbonara.
Oh,
yeah, it smelled like. Anyway, I digress. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Yeah, check in with me, guys. Have a think about this. Feel free to come back to me individually or in the group if thoughts arise for you about further questions that come up. But I would really, really encourage you, if you do not do this consistently, to try and find a way to incorporate a meditation practice. It's the thing for your brain. It's the thing for your brain. I think if there's one thing you're going to do to try and train your brain to improve your experience of life in a really tangible way, it's meditation. So yeah.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Gav. Cheers. All right, guys. I'll see you all soon. Nadia, I'll message you about a call, and then Gavin, I'll see him tomorrow he's gone already. Fucked off. He's gone already.
He's
Peace. See you later, mate.
off to meditate, mate.
Didn't even say goodbye. But yeah. All right. Cool. Catch up with you soon, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks, everybody. Take
Bye.
care. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Bye.
Bye.